Okay, I'm hoping this is going to work. I came home for an hour to try to send a little video to those of you who are at home, and I won't know until it's all done whether it even recorded. So I'm having more trouble than the other teachers, obviously, in getting you videos. So my phone doesn't work and my computer at school doesn't work. So what I'd like to do is go over what the online students need to know for this coming week. So we're already at the end of 6 weeks next Thursday. So um, in Bible, um, mostly what you're supposed to do is reports on the chapels, which have been recorded. The one yesterday with Mr. Mion and Mr. Hodges didn't record. I was a little disappointed because it was really a fun interview, but that'll just become, like extra credit for the kids who were able to watch it. And then I'm having you write summaries of the chapters of John. So 14, 15, 16, and 17, there'll just be four of them. And the way I want you to do it is take a section, read it a couple times, summarize it in your own words. And then after you've done that, I want you to find some commentaries. So the commentaries can be online ones like Matthew Henry, or if you want to even listen to a sermon and include that as your commentary, some truth that you get out of it, that's great. Most of the 6 week tests are going to have to be done on campus. Now, I think in Bible, I would probably let you do your test only as a take home test. And I will post a photo of it after I finish this. So there's not as much to do in Bible. British literature, on the other hand, you will need to come in for. So this is what I suggest. Next term, the weekends, next week, the term ends. And by Thursday, I will have covered everything I want you to know for the test. So next Friday or the following Monday, you can come in when the school is empty. It'll just be me. Or if you want to come in during a school day, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, if you come in the morning, you can take the test in the science room. No one's there. If you come in afternoon, you can take it in my classroom while no one's there. And if your parents would like you to not even be passing people in the hall, you can just go directly to the room. We will have it all disinfected. Your test will be laid out. Take it with a mask, whatever your parents want you to do. Now, if you can't come in, like if it's a border issue or something else, um, we can just hold your grade until you get to do it. But hopefully, by the end of September, I don't want you to have to be learning new stuff and remembering this old stuff too. So you have more work to do in British literature, and I think all the assignments have now been posted. You should be turning in within the next week your Anglo-Saxon report, which uses MLA format, which of course you can Google. It's about a page on the history, which is page 1 through 8. Then the next section is on the three things we read, which are the Seafarer, um, Beowulf, and the Venerable Bede. So you have to write about a 2 or 3 sentence summary of each of those. And then the last paragraph is just a summary of Anglo-Saxon language, which is called Old English. And that's page 23 and 24. So what I'm looking for is, have you followed MLA format and double spacing and 12 font, things like that. And the titles and the margins have to be according to that format. And then are you able to summarize the material without using any quotes? So I'm looking for it being in your own words. You also have an original dialogue based on the Seafarer, which just means a conversation between two people. The first speaker is experienced, the second speaker is innocent and optimistic, and then the first speaker and the second speaker. So it's just a 4-part dialogue. And I'd like you to do something that either captures your imagination or something you've really experienced. It can be something as simple as getting a car or going off to college or a dream vacation, or it can be something fantasy like, going to the moon, or, something that you can't really even imagine. But what I'm looking for is, can you have two voices from different perspective in dialogue format, um, according to that pattern? And then I've sent a vocabulary list home with you with some questions, with two little 5-6 minute YouTube videos. And I think all of this has been posted. So I want to help you a little bit with the next age we're starting. So on page 25, we're starting the Middle Ages, or the medieval period. And it starts in 1066. And what I want you to do is go through these pages up to page 34 and take notes on it. And again, it's going to take a couple readings. Like, I discuss it with the kids in class, but it'll take you a couple hours to really start learning it and taking good notes on it. I'm going to go over some things I especially want you to know. And these are the sort of things that will be short answer questions on the 6-week test, and even on the midterm, even on the final in May. They're the most important things. So you should know what feudalism is, which is the economic agricultural system where people lived on fiefs, which are farms, and the lord of the fief, or the king of the fief, would require the people who lived on his farm, the serfs, to give him part of their produce and also serve in his military. So it's a system that was used all through Europe, and of course in England also. So you should have studied that in world history before. And then the Crusades are also very important. They started in 1096, went on till 1270, or 72 is an estimate. And they are when the Pope would declare that people from Europe should go to the Holy Lands and try to get the Muslims out of the Holy Lands. And lots of stories about them, very dark stories, a lot of lives lost, a lot of villages wiped out, a lot of religious extremism, kind of a sad time in world history, long, almost 200 years. But out of the Crusades comes an ideal of what a knight should be like. I don't think many of them were like this, but the ideal is called chivalry. And chivalry has to do with being brave and courageous while you're in a battle, but with your family, with women, you're very kind and gentle. So it's this developing definition of masculinity. So stories about chivalry are called romance literature. And romance literature has its roots in medieval England, also in France and Italy and different places, but we will be studying the English version of it. So this is also the time when Gothic cathedrals are being built, things like Westminster Abbey, flying buttresses, stained glass windows, amazing structures. There's some very significant wars. I want you to understand what the 100-Year War is about and how it was resolved. And I want you to understand the War of Roses, which is between two royal families in England, which are York and Lancaster. How the resolution of the War of Roses brought to an end the Middle Ages with the beginning of a dynasty called the Tudor dynasty. And the Tudors were the family of Queen Elizabeth. So the next stage is named after Elizabeth. So try to really understand this. Is a lot of material. It just goes on, I think, to page 34, but it's just very dense. It takes a couple readings. And then what we did today in class was the ballads, and that starts on the next page, and I'd like you to read 3 pages. And they're hard to understand. I read them to the class today and explained them. But ballads are stories that are told in song, and they're incredibly popular in the country of England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. They were also continental Europe. And they came to America with some of the earliest colonists, And now, if someone is studying ballads, they usually go to the Appalachian area in the United States because the way they are sung and the stories are more accurate over here than over in England, because in England they evolved more and changed more. So let me just give you a little summary of the first two, and then I'm going to see if I'm really recording. So the first one is called Bonnie Barbara Allen, and it's a story about a girl and a boy who are dating each other, liking each other, and they go to a party together. And the girl is with the guy and expects all of his attention, but he's been drinking a little bit, and he starts admiring the other girls at the party, and he's making toasts to them. And a toast is when you lift up your wine glass or your beer mug and you say, "Oh, to the most beautiful girl at the party," or "Oh, to the best dancer." Just say something complimentary. So he goes around and compliments every girl at the party except his date, Barbara. So she gets really, really mad. And he doesn't know what he's done. He's probably drinking too much and didn't realize that that was really stupid. So he goes home and he gets sick because he knows his girlfriend's mad at him. So he sends his friends to go get her. "Please go find Barbara, bring her to me." So when she comes, he says, "What have I done? Why are you mad at me?" And she says, "Don't you know what you did at the party? You humiliated me. You admired all the girls and you didn't mention me." And she's so angry that he knows, I'm not going to be forgiven. So he turns his face to the wall and he enters into this heartbreaking grief and ends up dying. So as she leaves, she hears the bells ringing at the church to announce that someone has died, and realizes it's her boyfriend, John. So she goes home and she tells her mother, "You need to make my bed soft and narrow." And soft and narrow is a way to say a coffin. Narrow means it's very, very thin like this, and soft is like a padded coffin. So she says, "My true love died for me today, and I will die for him tomorrow." So it doesn't say she committed suicide, but you're supposed to think, oh, she was so ashamed and heartbroken. So they buried the lovers in the churchyard, and out of his coffin, out of his grave, comes a beautiful red rose. And out of her grave comes this wild, it's called a briar, a wild rose. And it says they come to the top of the churchyard fence and they tie themselves together in a kind of knot. It's called a lover's knot or a slip knot. There's other names for it. And at the very end, you're supposed to think, jealousy and unforgiveness and stubbornness. It's a bitter choice to make, but in death, somehow they are reconciled, but he was a better person. So it's kind of a moralistic, but also very sentimental ballad. Now, the second one is Get Up and Bar the Door. And it's about an older couple. It's real humorous that they're mad at each other and grumbling, and she's fixing him some pudding, but it's getting dark and windy outside. So she tells him, "Will you go bar the door? Or will you put in the wooden bar that goes across the door so the wind doesn't come in and people don't come in, just for safety?" And he doesn't want to. He's lazy. He has his feet up in front of the fire. He's waiting for his pudding. And he tells her, "You go do it." And she says, "No, you do it." So they make an agreement that the first person who speaks has to go and bar the door. And then these two men come by, criminals, bad guys, and they peek in, and it's now dark because the candles have been blown out, and probably the old man is sitting in front of the fire and she's finishing up the pudding. They're both upset with each other, and they sneak in and they eat the pudding, and they're kind of, sneaking around the house wondering why this old couple isn't telling them to leave. And one of them says, "I think I'm going to try kissing the wife, see what happens." And the other one says, "Well, I'm going to go shave the old man because he's a big beard." And then they say, "Well, we don't have any shaving water." And they say, "Well, why don't you use the hot water on the stove from the pudding?" And finally, the man gets mad and he jumps up and says, "Are you going to come in and, steal my food and kiss my wife and shave me with boiling water? What's wrong with you?" And he, tells him to leave, of course, and she jumps up and says, "You spoke first. You have to close the door." So it's just a humorous one about domestic issues, which is what ballads usually are. So up until this time, you should be reading to about page, I think that's 36 or 37. Get through the ballads. Tomorrow, I'm going to start on the Canterbury Tales, which is also very difficult to study on your own. And if I need to come home and try to send you YouTube, explanation during my break, I will. But please feel free to send me a message. Let me know when you can come in to take the test. And if you're having trouble crossing, just as soon as you can, it'll help you get through this first 6 weeks. We just found out that there had been some question about whether we could even have all the students back. There were some restrictions. And the Texas county judge has said absolutely Christian schools can be open. We have complete freedom to do that. So right now, I think we have 9 or 10 kids on campus. So, just let me know when you can come back, and also when you want to come in for tests. And any of the teachers that need you to take a test on campus, I will get them from the teacher and have them ready for you. So you'd only need to come in once. But try to do it in September, if at all possible. And just let me know what health protocols your parents want us to use for you. So I really love you guys. I miss you. I hope I can post this. I'm sorry I'm not sending very much, but I will go ahead and send you the recent grades and also the Bible test. And then if there's anything else you're missing, just let me know and I'll try to explain it again. Okay, miss you guys. Bye.